Hello, everyone. Welcome for today's study. Today, in this study, we will be focused on the theme, the power in words, which is a reflection based on Spiritism. And in order to facilitate this theme for us, we have the pleasure to have with us once more Vanessa Anceloni. For those who don't know Vanessa, we will present it very briefly. Vanessa Anceloni is a neuroscientist and psychologist. She is the founder of the School of Emotion. She worked for 18 years at the University of Maryland, a fifth generation of Spiritist. Dr. Anceloni, the founder and former president of the Spiritist Society of Baltimore. She also founded and is the president of the Spiritist Society of Virginia and the Spiritist Group of Washington. Vanessa Anceloni is a Spiritist medium. Dr. Anceloni has been translating and coordinating a team of translations of thousands of Spiritist books, amongst brothers and others land here, and other books which has been translated by Vanessa Anceloni. Vanessa is a dear friend within the family of Spiritists, and amongst us is a great pleasure to be here today. For all of those who are with us, we welcome you, and all of those who may be coming through our YouTube or Facebook channel, and also those who may be coming through the web, Radio Fraternidade. Be all welcome. And in that way, we ask you and invite you all to join us in our initial harmonization moment. For those who may wish to close your eyes, do so. Otherwise, let's join my words. Take these moments to focus our minds and hearts within us, so that we calm and bring the focus of our attention within, realizing that we are all immortal beings in evolution, learning constantly, children of God, created by God with love in order for us to learn to love. Let's initiate this moment, giving thanks for everything that we received, for our existences, for all the experiences which are mechanisms helping us to promote us, to evolve, to grow. We also give thanks for our families, for our work's possibilities, for being part in this huge field of beings looking for more light, more love, more peace within us, so that we can connect more and more with these natural resources that we find within and without, as we all join us through the way that we think and feel in goodness. And with our hearts full of gratitude for this unique and special moment in our existences, we start our meeting today. So be it. So, as we mentioned previously, today the theme is the power in words, and Vanessa Anceloni will be facilitating it for us. For those who are with us, please, you are invited also to bring your questions that Vanessa will be interacting with you towards the end of the talk. And in that way, Vanessa, welcome, and I hand it over to you.
Thank you, dear Vanise, and welcome, friends of the Spiritist Psychological Society. It's always an honor for us to be here and the opportunity to be together, studying together. We are here investing in our immortality. At this very moment, we're investing in our true selves because we're getting to know of our own abilities. Human beings on earth, they have special abilities, consciousness and the power of speaking. Mhm. Of course, we know that animals have their own language, but not like us. They don't build anything through their speaking abilities. They may communicate with one another, but it's not at this level. But with the ability to speak, we build or destroy. It's our choice. We are yet to learn on earth how to use one of the most powerful ways of being human, not only thinking, but in manifesting our thoughts through words. Power of words, power in words. In the book The Messengers, by the spirit Dr. André Luiz, the same that wrote the book No Solar Astro City, through the hands of the Brazilian medium Chico Xavier, we have come to know the case of a man who was in love with a woman in the book named Ismalia, married to Alfredo. They were a beautiful couple. But this man, Paulo, he wanted Ismalia for him. Yes, this is a story of many lives to date. It seems to be far from the present, but it's actually the reality of many people on earth to date. Paulo wanted what wasn't his. He wanted it so much that he found a way to get Ismalia for him. He created a slander. He found a way to convince Alfred, Ismalia's husband, that she was not faithful to him, that she was cheating on him, to the point that he actually created a scenario that made Alfredo believe that Ismalia was cheating on him. All a lie, true slander. The end is tragic. You can read it in the book, The Messengers. And there you're going to find the tragic end of all included in this story. Of course, Ismail and Alfred were victims to it all. But there we're going to see the situation of Paulo in the afterlife. He's not doing well. The situation he created for himself is a true disturbance of his mind, because the mind is of the spirit. On earth, when we study the mind, we think the mind is within the brain, but we know it's beyond the brain. It's an extra physical thing that impacts on our nervous system, and yet it's not restricted to our nervous system. And that's the story of many people's lives. To get a promotion, they create a story that is not true. To get the person that they want, they say stories that is not true. Creating sometimes true heartbreaks, just to seduce, to get what they want. Sometimes friendships are destroyed out of bad mouthing, backbiting, slander. We want to know more about this power that can construct the universe and at the same time destroy lives. Now, as we go to our slides, we're going to see that when we go back, I'm going to make it bigger just so we can see a little more. It helps us to see the images and a few sentences in our study. It reminds me of this Brazilian story by one of the most famous Brazilian writers, Monteiro Lobato, The Frog's Tale. The frogs were racing. They were racing. It was the frog's race. and the audience was made of frogs, but the audience didn't believe in the power of frogs to actually come to the finish line. So they kept saying, I don't think you're going to make it. I don't think you guys are going to make it. I really don't think you guys are going to make it. And little by little, frog after frog, they stopped. But one of the frogs didn't stop at all. He actually stayed on and reached the finish line. And many people asked, what happened that he made it? He couldn't hear. He was deaf. Monteiro Lobato knew much about the human mind, and he shows to us that there is yet for us an ability to be conquered. Speaking and listening are two things in one that we need to conjugate and to actually exercise in our lives. If we go back to the main book in humankind's history, the Bible, in the very first book of the Bible, Genesis, chapter 1, verse 3, it says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. So interesting, because in this expression, it talks about the power of the verb, the word, and the manifestation of it. Let there be light, and light was there. Interesting for us to understand a little more. If we go a little further down the Bible books, we're going to find James chapter 3, verse 10. From the same mouth proceeds blessing or cursing. Jesus' words to us, reminding us that there is much for us to learn how to speak wisely. Sometimes not saying what we need. Sometimes it's a simple forgiveness, saying, I'm sorry, or please forgive me. We don't say, creates a whole new life for us. Sometimes we reincarnate just to learn how to forgive or to apologize. Milestones for the soul. People often think that they reincarnate to be married, to have a child, to have a house, to have a certain profession. Yes and no, because deep inside, we are here for the milestones of the soul, so through these pathways and other pathways as well. So learning how to speak wisely, using the single instrument that everybody has, which is the vocal cords. Some people say, I don't play an instrument. Well, you have an instrument inside of your body named vocal cords. And if you learn it, not necessarily to sing, but to speak. Speak with kindness and charity and sometimes firmness. Nowadays, after the pandemic, we need voices of determination. We need voices of encouragement. We need voices of togetherness. And sometimes people keep quiet. They don't use the very instrument they're given. Emmanuel, the great Emmanuel, through the hands of Chico Xavier in the book, The Consoler, not yet translated into English, he was asked about the importance of the human word for our evolution as spirits. And the answer is groundbreaking. He says, the word is a divine gift when accompanied by the action that witness it. So it's a divine gift if it's really coherent. It is through the spoken or written characters that individuals receive the patrimony of sacred experiences from those who preceded them in the evolutionary mechanism of civilizations. It is through the power of words that humanity transmits from generation to generation the divine fire of progress and the blessed school of the earth. The written word is so powerful that when Chico Xavier, the medium, he psychographed hundreds of books, more than 400 books. We get to know through himself that when he published the book Liberation by the spirit author André Luiz, which describes the strategies of the darkness trying to block our ways into our own redeeming pathways, he said that one day in his pathway from work to home, he saw hundreds of spirits with sticks and stones in their hands, prepared to throw at them energy darts, because they were really upset that through the written words of the book Liberation, we have come to know how to protect ourselves better. He prayed, as per the recommendation of Emmanuel, his mentor, and got protected. Books, especially Spiritist books, are divine gifts. Especially those Spiritist books that were accompanied by actions of those mediums who brought them to life. That's why we're going to put a pause here for those who are watching us. If you want to know which book to read in Spiritism, go to the beginning. Kardec, André Luiz, Emmanuel, and all the spirits that wrote through Chico Xavier, and also the medium Divaldo Franco. With those books, you have enough at hand, enough to keep on instructing yourselves safely, because those books came in this pair up of words and actions, really transmitting the fire, the divine fire of progress to all of us. Then Emmanuel brings to us that we live in a world of relationships and vibrations. And André Luiz is going to complement in the book Workers of the Life Eternal, saying that there are specific spiritual mechanisms of word use, saying that every conversation prepares events in accordance with its nature. It is very important when people tell me, Vanessa, we need to prepare for the next pandemic. Yeah, let the expert prepare them. For us, let's fulfill our duties, and that's the best way to prepare us for anything that comes ahead. You know? If we keep talking about events, catastrophic events that may happen, we will actually create them. They will be manifested. So in our lives, it's not wise to use our words to talk about tragedies, to talk about diseases and illnesses. And I see many people who get older, you sit down and all they talk about is the illnesses, the death of loved ones. And Jesus in the book Good News, in chapter 9, old and young, he tells his disciples, especially Simeon, saying, the old ones, the people who are more experienced, are accountable, and they are the ones who need to be there to help the ones that are coming along. It's the opposite of what we're seeing nowadays. People retreating in their retirements, thinking, I'm going to give space to those who are coming. No, you don't need to leave for young ones to do their work. You stay there, because the generations that are coming, they need your experience to do it better and not start from scratch, reinventing the wheel and delaying progress. And when we see people who are older talking about how difficult it is to be old, they are not helping either. On the contrary, they are pushing young generations to this acronym YOLO, right? When you feel like your life is all there is, the life is so short, there's only one life, and you have to enjoy. No, no. If you are blessed to reach your aging years, use your words to stimulate, to encourage, to bless. By doing so, we will be preparing the event of our next reincarnation. Well, André Luiz shares with us about the mechanisms of speaking, that as much as we think and we form things, when we speak, we're creating vivid images, producing good or bad consequences according to the origin of the word. So, if once we didn't know how to speak wisely, this is the time. This is it. I remember in 2003, in Boston, Massachusetts, United States of America, at Divaldo Franco's event. Soon after his event, there was a huge snowstorm, to the point that no airports, no transportations were available but trains. Since I had to go back to Maryland at the time, I decided to go to the train station, not knowing that Divaldo Franco himself would be there. There were hundreds and hundreds of people waiting for a single train to take them to several different cities, passing through New York and going south to Maryland and other states. And we know it's not by chance, but Uncle Nilsson and Divaldo Franco were there. And we had an opportunity to ride together. After so many hours traveling together, he said of his very experience with the Sai Baba, the Indian spiritual leader who used to, with his mediumship, create even golden watches. Divaldo Franco said that he had a very private session with Sai Baba, together with his translator. At the time, Divaldo had a heart problem. So when the Sai Baba asked, "What can I do for you?" he talked about the heart problem. And the Sai Baba then simply touched his chest and said, in Divaldo Franco's words, learn to think correctly, to feel well, to think well, to feel well, to speak well, to do well. And we can see in the literature by Joana de Angelis that certainly that's the recommendation, to learn how to co-create with God through the power of speaking, creating images. So think about it. Have a bottle of water and see what happens inside of us. If I have a bottle of water and I'm speaking, as I'm speaking, I can feel the vibration that is here. Even if I don't have a bottle of water, you can put your hand on your chest and feel the vibrations that are happening in your very body when you're speaking. It's not only the vivid images of vibrations, but it's in the very physical body that is with us, connected to us. Dr. Masaru Emoto from Japan, when I watched his lecture in 2006 in Baltimore, Maryland, he was sharing his research about the power of words in the molecules of water. And he used to say in his books and his research how our words will impact our own health. How can I be healthy if I only speak of illnesses? How can I be happy when I speak of sadness? How can I be joyful when everything I talk about is depressing? Impossible. How can I experience prosperity if all I think about and talk about is money shortage? Like Louise Hay, the renowned therapist in the world who had a beautiful work in many books, but especially You Can Heal Your Life. She used to say, the poverty mentality. We keep believing the lack of things, in the lack, in the lack, in the lack, but willing to manifest abundance. How can we be in abundant health when we speak of illnesses? In abundance in any way, even family harmony, when all we do is backbiting, bad mouthy, yelling, and screaming in our house. Andre Luis clarifies to us in the book Workers of the Life Eternal that in these mechanisms of the use of the word, vibratory laws surround us on all sides. It is an indirect force of strange and vigorous power, our words, always inducing the veiled objectives of those who assume its intentional direction. The words we speak, but we need to be coherent. Some people say, but Vanessa, I came and I said hello, and the person was not happy. But did you really mean it? Or was this just convenience? How often we have these gatherings out of convenience? In the book, The Messengers, again by André Luiz through Chico Xavier, there's a chapter about the social gathering in the spiritual realm. And André Luiz says, that gathering had nothing about convenience. It was not about our social gatherings when people say hi, but they don't mean it. They smile, but they don't mean it. They say words just because, but they don't mean it at all. What about us? How can we be happy if we live this lie every day? But Vanessa, my work, people are this way. Well, maybe you shouldn't be the one like them. If you care for the people, we're supposed to exercise this loving care for people, even if they're selfish. I was telling my daughter yesterday, I said, even if people don't like us, we're called to like them and to appreciate them and to admire them because they're children of God. But that's hard, Mom. I said, but that's what Jesus does to us to date. He loves us unconditionally, even though many of us don't really care about him. And that's the direction. Learning to love, even if we're not loved, to care, even if we are not cared for. And you can't say to people, I love you. Did you notice it? You don't say it, you manifest it. Just like everything that God does, it's pure manifestation, and there's no taking it on our face and asking for anything in return. Emmanuel, in this duet with André Luiz, in another book named Calma in English, Calm, we have a whole study by Dr. Shane Martin at Kardec Radio. In this book, she translated it all. And Emmanuel says the human voice is loaded with vibrations. Loaded with vibrations. Next time we speak, feel in your throat the vibrations that are imprinted in your very body. Feel it in your chest. And then make a decision if you want to emit that saying or not. He continues by saying, your voice is your portrait, your sonorous portrait. In another book that is being studied daily at Kardec Radio in our morning prayers, Vineyard of Light, chapter 73, Emmanuel dedicates a whole chapter to it, and he says, everywhere the word is an index of our evolutionary position. So it's indispensable to refine it, to illuminate it, to ennoble it. See how far we are? Even in our songs nowadays, it's all about sex, it's all about cheating. The new generation is led by 10,000 words in these new songs that are always about depression and sadness and cheating, and we need to illuminate the minds of our children by also teaching them how to listen to those affirmations in good music, choosing it wisely. Back to Andre Luis. He's going to confirm what Emmanuel says. The vibratory power of words. In the material plane, half of the time is uselessly spent in lazy and inopportune conversations. Friends, we learn through its Spiritism that sometimes we're doing much physically. We're cleaning the house, we're doing our jobs, we're taking the children from school to work, work to school, we're even doing charitable things. But we are not emotionally there. And easily we get tired and we spend the other part of our days in idleness by emitting words that are not constructive at all. So we have two types of words, constructive and destructive, because they match the vibratory currents that we connect mentally. Says Andre Luis in the book Mechanisms of Mediumship. So we need to ask ourselves, it's a good exercise, is what I'm saying constructive or destructive? Is it adequate in terms of my spirituality, the long run of my immortality? Or is it something that is just defeating my progress and the progress of others? I remember when once in a Spiritist event, because we think Spiritists don't do it, right? But we all do it. Somebody was talking about, I asked somebody, no names. Oh, I don't know that person. That person is a speaker, right? Yes, yes, yes. What do you think about it? Are the lectures good? And then this person, very discreetly, but surely, said, yeah, but, I've heard this, that, and the other of this person. And then I said, I'm gonna see it for myself. Because people speak. But then, as Jesus said, fruitful trees speak for themselves. And then I invited that speaker over to come here to our center many, many, many years ago at the Spiritist side of Virginia. And then I saw it for myself, that the person was not only wonderful, but a very hard-working person. So there you see. When people speak, they slander, and they think they are doing any service to other people, but they are destroying the works of the good. Emmanuel continues delighting us with the understanding that there are different types of words. As we said, each time we speak our own words, we meet forces that either destroy or construct, edify, that deconstruct or restore, that hurt or heal. This is in the book Living Spring. Throughout the Spiritist literature, in many, 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 many books, we're going to see how we can build a new life with our words or destroy it. And then suddenly we get to know that the worst of it all is gossiping. is what Emmanuel calls in the book Vineyard of Life frantic talking, frantic conversation. When people talk, they don't know if it's true or false. They hear things, they change it, and then at the end of the day, it's true gossip. Make no mistake that gossip is a pathway that will lead us to several disturbances in future lives. Not only we are creating what we call aphasia, an illness that will make us, or sometimes even we will be born mute, so we don't continue destroying people's lives with our voice or our written words. So many people I know say, I want to be a writer. Well, why do you want to be a writer? Oh, I want to write books about what? Because that's what the mentors at the Spiritist Society of Virginia said. We need to write the good. It's art for the good. As Humberto de Campos, through the hands of Chico Xavier, in the book Good News, translated by our team at the Spiritist Society of Virginia, which you can find easily at the Spiritist magazine in several issues from 2012 to 2022. The chapters of the book Good News, he says, Humberto de Campos, when I used to be incarnated as a writer, I used to write to entertain. Now I write to construct. Now I write to encourage. Now I write to console. What about us? Are we speaking to console, to encourage, or are we speaking to destroy? And thus, André Luiz explains that the absence in the Spiritist Center, because there we most often, if not all the times, we only have dignified words, good words. We feel the vibrations. That's why it's so good to be presently at a Spiritist Center. He says the absence of any less dignified words and the continuous presence of uplifting verbal factors facilitate the elaboration of subtle forces in which divine guides find accessories to adapt in some way to our needs in the common edification. After this pandemic, many people are so used to being at home, watching online. They think it's the same. It's not the same. It's not the same. In the Spiritist Center, we have a very specific environment prepared for works that cannot be done in our homes. The time to stay at home is over. We need to go back. Isolation is a great recipe for obsession, chapter 23 of the Medium's book by Kardec. The first step is that to isolate ourselves from everybody who can help us. To teamwork is always the direction for our safety in our lives. So it's good to be there. It's like a school for the soul. We go at the Spiritist Center to learn together, to serve together, and to practice this loving kindness. And there, learning to speak with kindness, with togetherness, with encouragement. And that's why at the end of this, would like to recommend a good exercise that psychology would say so. Positive psychology, talking about the power of affirmations of love. Learning how to speak positively. In the worst case scenarios, seeking the good, feeling the good, visualizing the good and molding the good with all the resources we have at hand. Emmanuel's words in chapter 10 of the book Thought and Life through the medium Chico Xavier. But you know, it's as if we're nourishing ourselves with words. When we eat at our dining table, it's important to speak of the good, because those words are manifesting living images that will be absorbed by our food, and either we will eat health or disease, peace or hatred. That's a wonderful exercise, and who is the master of it all? To wrap up this short study together, there is much more. We have our Master Jesus, the guide and model, who always had coherent words of love and firmness, of encouragement and peace. We have a wonderful opportunity to be builders of a new era if we learn to speak well. Thank you, friends.
Thank you very much indeed, Vanessa. I present some reflections for us to go a bit further where you were. Would you be kind and let us know? Let's imagine that we are reflecting from a transpersonal perspective, understanding that we are immortal beings. Therefore, I would ask, what are the roots of our habits of complaining, of gossiping, of lamenting? What could be the roots of it? Would you be kind to develop that?
Yes, that's a beautiful question. And it's a study, actually, Evanise, to really be taken more. I know a Spiritist center in Brazil with very deep studies of the spiritual being. And they've studied the power of words for 2 years. And in psychological ways, they explain first the habits of previous lives, but also somebody who is not doing well. Someone who is constantly speaking ill of others, constantly backbiting, constantly gossiping and slandering, is a person who is mentally imbalanced. Nobody who is healthy and mentally balanced will take that pathway. In the book, The Gospel According to Spiritism, Chapter 5, we are going to find a subtitle, which is the longest chapter. One of the items is, if I'm not mistaken, items 13 to 15. It talks about torments, voluntary torments, and it says the torments of the soul, including envy and jealousy, basically driven by selfishness, which is a sign of our infancy of the soul.
Just a second. I think something happened with Vanessa's connection. And we just go on here, waiting for her as she comes back. She was just going through in relation to the importance for us to develop the ability to educate ourselves in using good words, how we can benefit ourselves, how we can benefit the environment around us. And in that way, Vanessa is back, and I hand it over to her.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. But we're talking about the torments of the soul. And here we have when people are in these torments, it's like a vortex. They start speaking nonsense, and they start speaking without realizing that their words have consequences and they actually hurt people. And I hear people saying, "Oh, but I didn't mean it." Well, but if people say they were hurt, you have to validate it. It doesn't matter if you didn't mean it. It matters that what the person is feeling. So we apologize and reevaluate. And why does this happen? Because we're mentally imbalanced. People who are happy, they don't talk ill about anyone. People who are mentally balanced, they don't talk ill about people. Only those who are mentally imbalanced create slanders, gossip, backbiting, and so on and so forth. So we would say, what to do, right? Well, first, awareness. It's what we call in the course of the spiritual being, if we are in a torment, facing the truth, the light of the truth, it's going to generate a conflict. So from torment to conflict. Once we are in the conflict, how do we get out of this conflict? As Joanna de Angelis says in the book Happy Life, a decision. The decision to be happy. And the decision to be happy according to God's laws, right? Just to give an example, in the book Heaven and Hell by Kardec, there are many cases. And there is the case of this woman named Claire, who, when she was incarnated, she was beautiful, wealthy, happy. People would actually envy her, says the spirit mentor St. Louis at the time. But now she's in the afterlife suffering, and she comes in 3 conversations at Kardec's time saying how suffering she is. Why? Because she was selfish. Selfish, only talking about herself, only thinking of herself. And society-wise, she was just like anybody else, though envied by many. And now the consequences. She didn't make most of the resources she had at hand, not even the way she spoke to people. So friends, today we have an opportunity to think what we're doing with our speaking ability. Am I constructing or am I destroying? Not only other people's lives, mainly my life.
Thank you very much. I present another reflection. Is it possible for us that our negative, pessimistic habits of communicating in a negative way, can that lead to spiritual obsession? And if so, how can we free ourselves from?
Yes. This is what we call, Evanise, torments of the soul. The person is tormented. I remember somebody telling me that they were traveling to Europe. It was a wife and a husband, and they had a beautiful trip. When they left the airport, the husband called a friend and was talking on the phone. The friend was asking how their trip went. And then the husband was talking about the trip. When he ended the conversation on the phone, his wife told me, I can't believe, I told him, that was the same trip that I took. Because what you're talking about is not exactly what happened. Why did you paint our trip in such dark manners? Oh, I don't want people to feel jealous. You know why we're afraid of people being jealous and envious? Because we are like that. And then we don't want people to see it. So then we start this habit, and this man created the habit of unveiling his successes by talking about the bad things in his life. Actually, in his case, he got severely ill. He developed a depression that was derived by spiritual obsession. Because in our habits, we make associations. Chapter 3 of the book Thought in Life. As we create images and use our will, even to speak, we create associations. Those associations can turn into obsessions. So what kind of spirits am I going to attract when I am pessimistic? And some people say, but I am a realistic. No. What is reality indeed? If everything comes from God, it's a beautiful reality. Jesus saw a dog that was dead, and while the apostles looked at it with despise and disgust, he said, wow, this dog must have had beautiful teeth. He was not joking. He was teaching us to be positive, to be optimistic. It is worthwhile being optimistic. Though some people are afraid of being optimistic and be frustrated in life, that shows to them how fragile we are. But our optimism relies on God, not in us, not in the world. He relies on God at my job. I'm not going to rely on anyone but on God. Why not be optimistic if everything good comes from God? Dr. Martin Seligman at the Penn State University, the father of positive psychology, he states, based on his scientific evidence, that we shall be optimistic in order to live healthy. And if for those who don't know it, there is a way to learn optimism. He has a book named Learned Optimism. So it's good to read and find a way. For those who don't want to read it, just read the book Good News or read anything in Spiritism. It's a true song teaching us how to be always optimistic and learn how to speak and voice optimism.
Thank you very much indeed, Vanessa. It was lovely to follow your journey, how you are explaining and empowering us how to communicate in a more constructive, positive way. As the time is coming to the end, we would kindly ask you if it's possible for you to conclude it with a prayer. Would that be possible?
I will. Thank you, dear Lord of life, for teaching us the new today, for reaffirming to us a new way of collaborating with you in your universe through the power of words. May we find you in our words, sharing the good, encouraging everyone in our lives to their beautiful and inevitable presence in the universe. May we learn to manifest your presence in words that are kind and determined, resilient in difficult times, boosting serenity when times are needed, and encouraging us to be useful, productive when times call us. We thank you for sending the Christ to the earth. Christ Jesus, our model for wise speaking, often quiet. When speaking, he always used the precise words that we need to date. May we nourish ourselves and one another with words that are nurturing, loving, peaceful, full of strength. We thank you for sending the spirit guides, the spirit doctors, nurses, and therapists who are now applying onto us the energy medicine so we can balance ourselves to proceed with our divine tasks in this reincarnation, as well for those who are discarnated and are also given an opportunity to begin anew. Blessed is the instrument you've given us to speak. We praise you, Lord of life, for your greatness. May we co-create with you at every word, at every silence, at every thought, at every action, at every loving feeling. In the joy of this moment, we thank you for uniting us with this wonderful group in the United Kingdom. May everyone connected to our hearts feel the banquet of your healing love, and so be it.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, for your loving presence, your fraternal interaction with all of us, for your time to be with us. We are really very grateful for that. And also hoping that in the future we will have other opportunities. Thank you for all of those who are with us, or all of those who may join us later on through this video, which will be available. And in that way, we come into the end, wishing much peace to all, for you, Vanessa, to your family, and all of those who are with us. Much peace, much love, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.